closer, it's more. Okay, so we are recording.
Oh my God.
Welcome back. I want to look at you, and then I'm looking. Anyways, so what was on our list that we were going to talk about next?
You sent me the list and then I said, don't show me the questions, delete them because I don't want to know.
Okay. No, but I mean our
Yeah.
prior list. Anyways, we're gonna just jump right into some questions that I came up with this last week. I've posted something online and I got a lot of wild comments. And usually I don't get too affected by these comments, but I feel like it wasn't like I was being attacked. I felt like sad for society watching these comments. And Kate, you can let me know if you kind of agree or not, but I just felt like it's sad the state of people's minds and where we are in society with the whole relationship of sex and sexuality and consent. And it's just, I don't know, it's heartbreaking to see both sides. I see a lot of women being afraid to talk about things that are happening, and then a lot of guys are afraid of being accused of things. Anyways, it's just the whole culture of sex and all of that. And I think that going back to the core of Christian values and abstaining from sex, it's not just a biblical thing, it's a safety thing. It's just a wise choice in many ways. And our culture has used sex to sell, to make money. And anyway, so it's just a big topic, but we've been wanting to specifically hit on not having sex before marriage and what that's like, and that's like not being a virgin versus being a virgin.
I think I think it's quite a hot topic, especially, since neither of us are virgins. But I feel like since I've been rebaptized, it's something that almost like you're born again, right? And I know obviously
Yeah.
physically it's
Yeah.
not the same, but I really want to take that seriously. I really, really want to
Yeah.
take that seriously. And it's met with a lot of I think a few of my friends actually laughed. They were like, good luck to you. And I think it's because we live in a society where we use so much to self-soothe, and sex is a big one. Like sex is a
Yeah.
big thing. Like it's almost this element of freedom. Like when you're old enough, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh well, I see that, I want it, I can have it.
Yeah.
And it's instant
Yeah.
gratification. And I don't want
It's a
that anymore.
band-aid. It's
It's a
definitely a
band.
band-aid. It's interesting what you just said, though, is such a good point of the whole, what did you just say that triggered this? It just made me think of you're
Instant
okay, so
gratification.
once you're saved, you are not physically actually a virgin again. So I had an experience in the church most recently where someone had asked, well, if I am born again, do I then I don't have to tell my partner. Basically, I can tell my partner I'm a virgin, right? And I'm like, now that's not quite what that means. So there's just such extremes, but yeah, no, that just made me think of that. That's wild. But I think it's all about transparency and honesty and
Mm.
trying to do better. And the more that you receive grace, the more that you realize how blessed we are, the more that you realize how undeserving we are of this unconditional love that we are given every day, and just by existing and breathing, the more you want to do better. So for me, I I grew up as the token Christian kid, and all through college, in college is when it started to get a little weird to be a virgin, right? A little abnormal, a little like good luck, like so that's a huge part of why I didn't drink, because I was like, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I might not even know how I lost my virginity. Like, I still have this precious gift, so I'm not going to drink because that's putting me at risk. And I can like literally I had one friend that was a male that was doing the same thing, like trying to wait. And so it's a beautiful thing when you're in it, and when you are like, what's the word? When you're still a virgin, it's actually like easier. And I understand why now my parents, like, I had a purity ring, I had the whole thing. We're like, stay this way, because it gets really difficult once you're not anymore, because people look at you differently, and all of a sudden it's like, well, she's already given it away, I can just take it from her. And it's just it's a difficult world to navigate, and I feel like, for me personally, I wish that the church educated more on how to navigate that if you do lose your virginity. Like, the goal is to stay celibate towards marriage, but if you don't, like, this is other things you can do, and you're still loved, you're still beautiful, you're still valued. Because for me, the moment I lost that, I thought, well, no Christian man will want me anymore.
And I feel like that couldn't be further from the truth.
Mhm.
Um, I'm sure there's some that wouldn't, but I think that what I'm sort of learning more and more now is it's not even if my past makes me like not attractive to someone, then that someone's not my person. Then you're not my person, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna fight to
Yeah.
try and get you to see me, you know? Um,
Okay. Go ahead.
no, what?
This is when I have some questions for you, though. Okay, because this is where it
Okay.
gets a little tricky, because I agree.
Hmm.
I agree. But I do think that there are lines, right? And so this is a tough one. Are you ready for this question? Okay.
I don't know.
Coming from someone with an what do you call it? A track record of having been an addict, would you date
Yeah,
an addict?
no. It
Okay.
depends. If they were in recovery, if they were a recovering addicts,
Yeah.
then potentially, but it would also depend on like what their clean time was. Like I would never date someone new in recovery because firstly, you shouldn't do
Yeah.
that. Never someone in their
Yeah.
first year. And
Right.
also, I've got two kids, so I wouldn't, I'm not just thinking about me, I'm thinking about them as well. Um,
Right.
but I think it's very different. Like that's very different from someone who's would you
Is it
date someone who's
though? Is it like,
would you date an addict?
okay, okay, but that's what I'm saying, is this, it's
Yeah.
like, there's this slippery slope, and there's these different areas, and so it's like goes into like, have you like, and I agree. For me, it's like, okay, I was super anti-drugs. I'm still super anti-drugs my whole life, and I've seen and I've dated addicts, and so like I know what can come of that. But like, I was thinking yesterday, like, where is my line that I would draw with what substances someone has used in the past, right? Because like, I literally one time, a girl gave me a vape pen, and I thought it was like a normal nicotine vape, like, back, I don't know, this was like, I think it was on my like 27th birthday. And it was the day before my 27th birthday. And I realized she had put meth in the vape pen.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. And she
So
didn't
I
tell
literally,
you?
no, she did not tell me. She laughed. She gave it to me, and she just watched. And so I literally got drugged with meth. And here I'm thinking, like, I made it 28 years of life never like using a drug and I just got drugged. My first one was meth, you know? So stuff happens, right? So I can't be over here like, well, I would never date anyone. Like, there's always, it depends. Like, my dad, when I was growing up, I used to ask him questions and he would just be like, it depends. And I'm like, I hate that answer. Like, give me a yes or no. But the reality is with life, like, it really depends. Like, a lot of these things are just not that simple. Like you said, how much time clean have they had? You know, what was the drug? For me, I don't think I would ever date someone that was a heroin addict. I couldn't, I know the risk. It just takes one time to relapse and they're dead. They're
Mm,
dead. And like, I wouldn't want to live in fear of that or to have my kids live in fear of that, you know?
yeah.
So it's it's such a weird thing to navigate, but these are things that like we have to think about and we have to consider. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was like my hardest question. I wanted to really like dig into that and see how you felt about that.
Yeah, it is a tough one because it's like I wouldn't want someone to not, well, but here we go. I come back to this idea of if you're not going to give me a chance, then you're not my person. Because I firmly believe that the person that God has for me is going to give me a chance, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, because I mean, I know that I never want to go back to active addiction.
Yeah.
And I will do whatever it takes, you know? But it is
Yeah.
just today, as they said. Um, yeah.
I also think it
I
depends
wouldn't date
on
someone in active addiction though. Not a chance.
no, yeah, that
No.
wise. Yeah. And I think that also it depends on the person, right? So like one thing my grandma has always said, she chooses not to drink. She's never drank in her life. And she's always like, you know, I might not be affected by it, but like maybe me drinking next to someone who is affected by it, and then they see me drinking, and then they say, well, I'm going to have a drink. And then all of a sudden they're like back into their addiction. So I thought that that was interesting too. And from that point of view, and I teeter on that for sure. I think again, everything in life is about balance. I would like to be able to have a
Mm,
glass of wine at dinner with my husband someday, but where I'm at right now, like I don't need to have a glass of wine at night. I'm like I'm grinding and I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. after like finishing up work and getting up at 5. There's no reason, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't benefit me in any way.
it's like, do
But
you need it though, or is that conditioning? Is that an old neural pathway going, oh, dinner, wine, because we see it on TV all the
to
time, and we see it in movies, and we see it in adverts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And I agree. I just think that, like, if you can, you don't need it and you shouldn't need it. And the moment you think that you need it to unwind, that's when it's an issue. But if you want
Mm,
to enjoy it, just like enjoying a piece of chocolate every once in a while, like that, as long as you can do it in a healthy way within balance, is fine, is good. But if you can do it, so
sure.
that, but all of that is tying back to this idea of relationships and what's good for us. And what I think is that what we
Yeah.
also have to take into consideration is that person, like for me, I'm not going to go date someone who is really into like, um, what's a good example?
Festivals every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great example. I'm not going to go date someone who's really into
Yeah.
festivals every weekend because maybe they're not the worst thing in the world. Like I don't use drugs, so it's not like that bad when I go to a
Mm,
festival, but it's a waste of my time and it would be very tempting to me because it's fun, there's people, there's music. And if I was dating someone who was really into that, it would make me fall back into that lifestyle and wasting my time just like doing kind of meaningless thing. Like not festi- I'm not dogging on festivals, okay?
well, it's
Like
temptation.
yeah. So you wouldn't want to like as an alcoholic date someone that's also been an alcoholic. Maybe like someone else could date someone that's been an alcoholic because they've never been an alcoholic. And so then if they fall back into it, they can be like, "No, don't do that," and help level each other out. But two people that both have the same like Achilles heel being together can be dangerous. Is kind of what I'm saying there.
I I agree, but I also don't agree. I don't know about that though, because I feel like you got to
Tell me.
be responsible for yourself. And if you're both committed to
100%.
your recovery and you're both committed to that journey, then it's
That's
different. But I
true.
guess it does come back to like, what is your boundary? What are you willing to accept? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. That's a good
and
point. That's a good
it's a
point.
boundary. It's definitely, it's like coming back to what you were saying, like in the beginning of our chats about, oh, you wish the church had said this and that, and like, how do you know?
Mhm.
I feel like it's so, that idea is self-worth and boundaries. Like, how do
Mhm.
you know when you get out into the big wide world what to do? And this is what I really want to instill in my kids. Like, I want them to have a
Yeah.
firm relationship with God, but I want them to know their worth. Because if you know your worth, you're gonna know what your boundaries are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it can keep you safe to a point, but also obviously like there's the flip side of it, which is not so nice, which is even when there is no, sometimes some people just don't accept no. And that's not
So that
cool.
right, so this is what we were talking about the other day, right? Is unfortunately the way we have to teach our boys and our girls is very different, and the things we have to learn as women. Um you said to write it down. What was it? The exact thing I said. Oh,
Try
we
and think of
have
it, but I
to
will.
we
Oh,
have to be responsible for both people as women. So
yeah.
there is a luxury in getting to make the decision as a man. I feel like I have self control, so I'm going to go cuddle with this woman. Versus, I feel like I don't have self control, so I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'll be tempted. As women, I do not believe that we have that luxury. I can have all the self control in the world and love a good cuddle, but it really doesn't matter if the guy I'm laying next to doesn't. And yes, you could say it goes both ways, but the reality is we are smaller. We are smaller. We're most of the time a little weaker, and it's a little more difficult for a girl to take advantage of a guy, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, look, of course it happens, we're not saying it doesn't happen, it does, but I think, yeah, since when did no not become a full sentence? Because I've experienced that and it's not cool. Like, my no is a full sentence. It doesn't mean try harder. It doesn't mean, and I know that, like, how
Yeah.
many times does somebody have to say no? Like, so this is why I just rather won't see anyone. Like, stay away. Because if you can't respect my
Yeah.
no and your mother didn't teach you how to respect a woman's no, you're not someone that I want to
Yeah.
actually. I shouldn't have to say no more than once. It should be once, and that should be respected. And if you can't respect that,
A
then you don't respect me.
100%.
And it took me this many years to realize that. I mean, I'm turning 38 this year. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that the sad reality too is that, so I want to call myself out real quick and say that there is something to be said. Someone said something and I was like, ouch, but it's kind of true. There is something to be said for a woman continuing to put herself in situations where things happen. Now, the optimist in me is like, I don't want to stop believing in people. I want to still continue to I don't want to all of a sudden turn dark and believe everyone's bad. But there is something to be said about learning and not putting yourself in situations like that again. Or and maybe that's just the tough
Yeah.
reality of the world that we're in, unfortunately, again, you do not get the luxury of, as a woman, to just be drunk out somewhere. Anything can happen. And if you continue to just be like, I'm just going to keep doing it because I hope that I wish people were better, it's just naive and asking for something to happen. But I hate even
Mhm.
hearing those words come out of my mouth because that shouldn't be the way that it is. But as a woman, first of all, I pray to God that if I have kids, I have boys. Please, Jesus, give me boys because I already feel like having a boy dog. I'm more of a boy mom, but should I have daughters. It's going to be like, this is what you do. This is what you do not do. This is how you defend yourself. This is how you protect yourself. This is how you make sure nothing ever happens. And number one, the people that are going to hurt you are going to be the ones you trust the most, the ones you think that won't. Like, these are the type of things that we have to teach now. But anyways, just going back to it is like,
Can you come talk to my kids, please?
there's always, I think that's important actually, is having that like godmother or like cool aunt to say it, because no one's gonna, mom, like girls especially, I didn't listen to my mom, and I'm like, wish I had, a little more. But yeah, no, it's, I also, yeah, I think I will definitely talk to your girls. Be like, but
Well,
yeah, it's a
I saw
tough,
this talk.
oof. Go ahead.
Yes.
No, I didn't say.
No, I was just saying I
You
saw
saw what?
I saw this I saw a video Dave Asprey shared about how kids, when they turn 13, and I cannot remember if it was 13 to 17 or 13 to 21, but I think it's
Mhm.
21. I'm just going to lean that way from personal experience, just judging by myself. Um,
Yeah.
it's almost like you're hardwired to believe your parents are idiots at that time. So he emphasized having a group of adults that you trust, that model the values that you want to instill in your kids, because they can model that for your
God.
kids. They can talk to your kids between 13 and let's say
Yeah.
21, I think, because they won't listen to
That
you.
is so
So
good.
I got one more year. Yeah, it is.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense,
Mm.
honestly, though. If I look back, I'm like, there are even times like growing up, I was telling my mom yesterday, actually. I was just telling my mom this because I'm having the hardest time with social media. Like, am I allowed to have bikini photos? Like, am I allowed to have that? And part of me, this has been an ongoing battle for me my whole life, right? Because I'm like, I live at the beach. Like, I am a beach girl through and through. Like, this is who I am. And the other part of me is like, I've gone through phases where I took them all down and I didn't have a single bikini photo.
Mm.
And it wasn't until like 6 months ago when I moved back to California and I'm at the beach every day, I'm like, I don't want to hide this part of me. And I'm into fitness and I'm like, I want to support the female body and blah, blah, blah. But, anyways, the point of that is, I was telling my mom yesterday is that like, it's really hard to figure out that, like, how do I articulate this? I don't want to just cover up everything and be like this perfect little, like, perfect Christian on social media, because when I was in middle school, when I thought my parents were idiots, right? When I was like, "Oh my gosh, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus," cuz I was in youth group on Wednesday, like Bible study on Friday, some other thing, church thing on Saturday, church on Sunday. Like, I almost had a church thing every single day of the week. And I started at Christian schools and then I was in a public school and I was like the token Christian kid. Like, I was just swarmed by Jesus. And looking back, now I'm back in that place because I choose to be. But at the time, I was like, I want to be my own person. And I had this Pepperdine student who was not an adult, but she's older. She's like 18, 19, 20, an older girl for like a middle school, for in my eyes. And she had a tattoo. And she had this little Jesus fish tattoo. And I just thought she was so cool. And so then, because she had this tattoo, all of a sudden I was like, well, Jesus could be pretty cool. Like, maybe Jesus is cool. You know what I mean? Like, it made me all of a sudden, like, so it's like, for me, I have this part of me that's like, I want girls to be like, oh, well, she's cool. She wears bikinis and she loves Jesus. So, like, maybe I can love Jesus too, even though I like to wear bikinis. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I don't think there's a problem. It does. It does. I know what you're trying to say. I know what you're trying to say. I don't think there's an issue with wearing bikinis, but I think it is how you photograph yourself,
Yes.
how much you
Yes.
show. Like, I think
Yes.
there are levels. And like, I also recently I was like, oh, like I don't feel comfortable. Like I used to post a lot of it just was whatever. I also live on the beach in
Yeah.
Cape Town, so
Yeah.
I did, but now I'm kind of like I feel a bit more conservative, and I'm just going
Yeah.
with it. I'm going with how I'm feeling, and
Yes.
I'll see what's around the next corner. I'm just, I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Gosh, I've made a lot of mistakes. I think I say this every episode because I'm still dealing with like,
We all do.
sorry.
We all do. We all
Yeah,
make these mistakes and we learn and we grow, and it's, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, but you're gonna get there eventually. Maybe we should create a bikini
yeah.
line, like Christian bikinis, like classy bikinis, and make them
Girl,
really
I'm
cute,
telling
but like
you.
modest, but like still cute.
But
They're gonna
it's
sell like
such a flip for
hotcakes.
me, and a lot of
Um,
people, um, what?
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's such a flip for me, and a lot of people, I think, like who've known me for a long time would say, because I used to be like I've been a big flirt my life, and like word and this and that, and like I'll hold my hand up. I used to seek validation a lot, and
Mhm.
completely having this shift, like since really like walking with God, I suppose. Um,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
completely changed that, like that need, and I see it, and I actually just want to hug my younger self because I was so like alone, like I was so desperate for just like I wanted to be
Yeah.
seen, but then when I was terrified to be seen. So it was like this
Yeah.
weird dance of trauma, of my childhood trauma and stuff coming up. But I think childhood
Yeah.
trauma can be a whole separate episode.
Oh, yeah. It can be a whole book. We can do 17 episodes on it. I want to piggyback
Yeah.
off that because that is so good. I noticed, especially because this is something that I was been wrestling with for my whole life, right? The whole being in LA and being a Christian has made appearance and my clothes be a huge topic. Being modesty has
Mm.
always been a huge topic for me. I noticed something change, and I don't know if it was like I really prayed for discernment last year, and maybe that was part of my growth process. But what I started to notice is that I used to really, like you said, seek validation and want to look sexy and want to look, especially because when I was younger, I was so like, well, you're pretty, but like you're that little Christian girl. Like nobody actually like wants you that way. No one wants to date you, but you're cute. And I fought that so hard. And looking back, I'm like, I should have embraced that. But what happened was I sought after looking sexy, right? Because I didn't want to I was trying to fit in instead of embracing that I was different. And then finally, like a couple years ago, within the last couple years, I feel like there was something just clicked in my mind where I was like, I don't like that. I don't want people to see me as a piece of meat. I want them to see me as educated, as a woman, as classy, as respectable, as someone they can
Mm.
trust, as you know what I mean? Like all of a sudden it shifted, and I didn't want, like, I put on some of the same clothes I used to wear and I was like, "Oh, mercy." Like I would never wear some of the things I used to wear. Like now, like I want to wear
Same. Oh
blazers,
my
I want to wear
God.
heels, but it
Yeah.
has to click in your mind, and something at some point, I think probably
Mm.
just getting older and becoming a woman, something just clicks and you realize I don't want to
No,
be
because you could still
sexy.
seek validation your entire life. If you haven't
Yes,
healed your trauma and if you haven't dealt with that, you will constantly
you're
seek
right.
it.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
think it
That's
really
true.
is. For me, it was deepening my relationship, actually finding my relationship with God, which
Yeah.
taught me then to value myself. And now,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you're right, and maybe that was it. Maybe it was that I was, really deeply in prayer and praying for a change of my eyes, a change of discernment, like seeing things different and not only other people, but maybe that
Yeah.
in that I also saw myself, learned to see myself differently, which is an everyday
Yeah.
battle, right? Everyday battle. Okay, well,
It is, but
I'm
we live to
gonna
fight another day.
yes, we do. Okay, well, that is a
I
wrap for
think that's
today.
about it.
Yeah.
That is a wrap.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next
Thanks,
pod
guys. We'll
or
see you on the
listening.
next one. Shoot us any questions and we'll answer
Yes.
them on the
Ask
next or the
away.
next or the next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ciao.
Stay safe. Stay prayed up. Bye.